My cousin, Jenna, is organizing a wedding at my house, and I am not invited. On her wedding day, the bride is shocked to discover that I've changed the locks, and there will be no wedding. I am 32 years old, and have been following this subreddit for quite some time. Recently, I've encountered a situation in my life that I need some advice on. I've read numerous posts about cousins to see if anyone else has faced a similar issue and how they managed it. I suppose my situation is quite unique, and I could use some guidance. So here is the deal. My cousin, who is 25, is planning a wedding for the summer. She wants to host it at my place. Yes, that's right, not to brag, but I have a 3-bedroom house with a lovely garden and a spacious patio. I've put a lot of effort into making my home a welcoming space, and it's a place I take pride in. Jenna is engaged to a Canadian guy named Ryan, so her family will need a place to stay when they come for the wedding. We have a decent living room and a nice outdoor area, and she envisions an outdoor ceremony followed by a reception inside. Now, the obvious question is whether I should agree to this. Honestly, I am not sure, which is why I am seeking advice. Let me provide some context. I've been married to my husband, Mark, for 6 years. We met in university and dated for about 3 years before tying the knot. He comes from a modest background. His father was a mechanic and his mother worked part-time jobs. My husband has an older brother, Tom, who still lives with their parents. Keep in mind, he's 30 and hasn't moved out yet. They provide him with everything, including financial support for his hobbies, which I find excessive. Unlike my husband, who earned his degree, Jenna dropped out of college. Her parents didn't push her to finish because they believed she could find success without a degree. I find this mindset puzzling, as I was raised quite differently. My parents, while not wealthy, instilled a strong work ethic in my brother and me. They encouraged us to earn scholarships for college instead of footing the bill themselves. We resented it at the time, but now I see the wisdom in their approach. When I landed my first job after college, I was eager to spend my earnings, but my parents advised me to save and invest wisely. They helped me with the down payment on my first home, emphasizing the importance of financial independence. I am grateful for that guidance, especially given the current housing market. As for my relationship with my in-laws, it's been tolerable. We don't see each other often since they live quite a distance away, but I maintain a decent rapport with my mother-in-law, Linda. However, I struggle to connect with Jenna. We're complete opposites. She resents me for suggesting she should finish her education and find a job, believing I am envious of her lifestyle. The most frustrating part is that my in-laws claim they're facing financial difficulties while still supporting their 25-year-old daughter's whims. My husband and I offered to help her find a job, but neither she nor my in-laws showed any interest. She's clearly not motivated, but I believe her parents should encourage her to be more responsible. There are a couple of reasons Jenna wants to have her wedding at my house. One is the convenience of space. She can host the ceremony and reception all in one place, and her guests wouldn't need to book a hotel. The other reason is that she can't afford to rent a venue, and if my house isn't available, she'd have to settle for a small courthouse wedding. My husband doesn't want to weigh in on the matter since it's my house, and he wants me to make the decision without his influence. That's one of the many reasons I appreciate him. So, my dilemma is this. Should I allow her to use my house for her wedding? Update. Asterisk, asterisk. The wedding is in 2 days, and I just found out I am not invited. The irony is that the wedding is at my house. Let me start from where I left off. Yes, I initially agreed to let her use my house for the wedding, but now I regret that decision. I am furious, so please bear with me as I vent. Jenna is nothing but a person who takes advantage of others for her gain. She's not even that attractive, and her lack of intelligence is astounding. But, once the lights go out, most people overlook those things. I discovered that her Canadian fiancé, Ryan, is quite wealthy. He works in finance and his family is well off. To impress them, she lied and claimed my house was hers. I knew about this deception for a while but didn't care because it didn't affect me directly. When Ryan proposed, Jenna practically begged me to let her use my house for the wedding. Her parents also came to plead with me, saying that if I didn't agree, they might have to take out a loan to finance the wedding. I asked them why she and Ryan couldn't pay for it themselves, and they explained that traditionally, the bride's family covers the wedding expenses, especially in their culture. I wasn't sure how accurate that was, but I didn't want to judge. I had already agreed to let her use my house, but now I am regretting it. I feel like I've been taken for granted. Jenna has been boasting about my house to Ryan and his family, claiming it as her own. I thought it was ridiculous, but I didn't think it would escalate to this point. When I confronted her about the wedding plans, she casually mentioned that she hadn't invited me or my husband. I was shocked. How could she plan a wedding at my house and not invite us? She laughed it off, saying it was her parents' house now and we could just stay somewhere else. I was furious. I called Mark, and he was equally appalled. We both agreed that this was unacceptable. I decided to take action. I changed the locks on the house and informed her that there would be no wedding here. I felt empowered, but I also knew this would create a huge rift in the family. The day of the wedding arrived, and I could only imagine the chaos that ensued when she realized she couldn't get in. I felt a mix of satisfaction and guilt. I had stood up for myself, but at what cost? My in-laws were furious, and Jenna was humiliated. Now, I am left wondering if I made the right choice. I've cut ties with Jenna and her family, but I am still dealing with the fallout. Mark is supportive, but I can tell he's worried about the family dynamics. I am not sure what the future holds, but I know I won't let anyone take advantage of me again. Update. Asterisk, asterisk. It's been a few days since the wedding that never happened, and the fallout has been intense. Jenna has been crying and blaming me for ruining her big day. I received messages from Ryan, apologizing for the situation, but I reassured him that it wasn't his fault. My in-laws have been calling Mark, trying to convince him that I should apologize and let the wedding happen at our house. They don't seem to understand that their daughter's actions were unacceptable. Mark is considering cutting off communication with them if they continue to pressure us. I feel relieved to have taken a stand, but I am also anxious about the future. I've had enough of the drama and just want to focus on my life and career. I'll keep you all updated on how things unfold, but for now, I am just grateful to have my home back. As the days passed, I found myself reflecting on the entire situation. I had always been the peacemaker in the family, trying to keep the peace and avoid conflict. But this time, I realized that standing up for myself was necessary. I started to think about how I could move forward and rebuild my life without the constant worry of family drama. I decided to focus on my career and personal growth. I enrolled in a few online courses to enhance my skills and even started a side project that I had been putting off for years. It felt liberating to invest my time and energy into something that truly mattered to me. Meanwhile, I kept receiving messages from Jenna, filled with anger and accusations. She claimed I had ruined her life and that I was selfish for not allowing her to have her dream wedding. I chose to ignore her messages, knowing that engaging with her would only lead to more conflict. Mark and I had several discussions about our future and how we wanted to navigate our relationship with his family. He expressed his frustration with their inability to see Jenna's flaws and their insistence that I should apologize. We both agreed that we needed to set boundaries to protect our peace. One evening, as we were having dinner, Mark received a call from his mother. She was upset and wanted to talk about the situation. Mark took a deep breath and decided to answer. I could hear her voice on the other end, filled with emotion as she pleaded with him to reconsider my actions. Mark, you have to understand that Jenna is devastated. She's your family, and we can't just turn our backs on her, she said, her voice trembling. Mom, I get that she's upset, but she made her choices. She didn't invite us to her wedding at our house. How is that fair? Mark replied, his tone firm but calm. I could see the tension in his face as he listened to his mother's pleas. It was clear that she was trying to manipulate him into feeling guilty for standing up for what was right. You don't understand how hard this is for her. She's been planning this for months, and now it's all ruined because of your wife, she continued, her voice rising. Mom, it's not about ruining her plans. It's about respect. She didn't respect us enough to invite us to a wedding she was hosting at our home. I can't just overlook that, Mark said, his frustration evident. After a long conversation filled with back-and-forth arguments, Mark finally told his mother that he needed some space to think. He hung up, looking visibly drained. I can't believe they're still trying to defend her, he said, shaking his head. It's like they can't see how wrong she was. I reached out to him, placing my hand on his shoulder. You did the right thing by standing your ground. We can't let them dictate how we feel or what we do, I reassured him. As the days turned into weeks, the tension in our lives began to settle. I focused on my work and personal projects, and Mark started to distance himself from his family's drama. We even began to plan a small getaway for ourselves, something we hadn't done in a long time. It felt good to prioritize our relationship and create new memories together. However, Jenna wasn't done with her attempts to reach out. She started sending messages to mutual friends, trying to paint me as the villain in the story. I heard through the grapevine that she was telling people I was jealous of her and that I had always been envious of her carefree lifestyle. It was frustrating to hear these false narratives, but I knew that engaging with her would only fuel the fire. One day, I received a message from a close friend who had been caught in the middle of the drama. "Hey, I just wanted to check in on you. I've heard some things from Jenna, and I wanted to see how you were doing," she said. I took a deep breath and replied, "I am doing okay, just focusing on my life and trying to move forward. I appreciate you reaching out, but I'd prefer not to discuss Jenna or the wedding anymore. It's a closed chapter for me." My friend respected my wishes and changed the subject, but I could tell that the gossip was still swirling around. I decided to take a proactive approach. I reached out to a few family members and friends to clarify my side of the story. I wanted to ensure that my truth was heard, not just Jenna's version. "Look, I am not trying to create drama, but I want to be clear about what happened. I didn't want to ruin her wedding. I just couldn't allow her to use my home without inviting us." I explained to them. Most people understood my perspective, and I felt a sense of relief knowing that I had taken control of the narrative. As time went on, I noticed that the tension with my in-laws began to ease. They still reached out to Mark occasionally, but he was firm in his stance. "I love you guys, but I can't support Jenna's actions. She needs to take responsibility for her choices," he would say. Eventually, Jenna reached out to me directly, asking to meet. I was hesitant but agreed, thinking it might help clear the air. We met at a local cafe, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. "I just wanted to say I am sorry for how everything went down. I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, her voice shaky. I took a moment to gather my thoughts. "Jenna, it's not just about the wedding. It's about respect and communication. You made choices that affected me and my home without considering how I would feel," I replied, trying to remain calm. She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I realize that now. I was so caught up in my own plans that I didn't think about how it would impact you. I am really sorry." We talked for a while, and I could see that she was genuinely remorseful. It was a step in the right direction, but I knew it would take time to rebuild trust. I told her that I needed space to process everything, and she agreed. After our conversation, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had stood up for myself, taken control of my narrative, and even managed to have a civil conversation with Jenna. It was a small victory, but it felt significant. As the summer rolled on, Mark and I continued to focus on our relationship and our future. We planned our getaway, which turned out to be a much-needed break from the chaos. We explored new places, enjoyed each other's company, and made memories that reminded us of why we fell in love in the first place. When we returned home, I felt rejuvenated and ready to tackle whatever came next. The experience with Jenna had taught me a lot about boundaries and the importance of standing up for myself. I was determined not to let anyone take advantage of my kindness again. As the weeks passed, I noticed that Jenna was making an effort to reach out more. She sent me a few texts, asking how I was doing and sharing updates about her life. I appreciated her attempts to reconnect, but I was still cautious. Trust takes time to rebuild, and I wasn't ready to dive back into a close relationship just yet. One day, I received an unexpected message from Jenna. "Hey, I know things have been rocky between us, but I'd love to invite you to a small gathering at my parents' house next weekend. It's just family and a few close friends. I really want to make amends," she wrote. I discussed it with Mark, and he encouraged me to go. "It could be a good opportunity to clear the air and see if she's genuinely changed," he said. After some deliberation, I decided to accept the invitation. It felt like a step toward healing, even if I was still apprehensive. The day of the gathering arrived, and I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. As I walked into Jenna's parents' house, I was greeted with warm smiles and a sense of familiarity. It was a cozy setting filled with laughter and the aroma of delicious food. I spotted Jenna across the room and she waved me over. "Thanks for coming. It means a lot to me," she said, her sincerity evident. We chatted for a while, and I could see that she was genuinely trying to make amends. The atmosphere was light, and I found myself relaxing as I engaged with family members I hadn't seen in a while. As the evening progressed, Jenna took the opportunity to address the elephant in the room. "I want to apologize again for everything that happened with the wedding. I was selfish and didn't think about how my actions would affect you. I hope we can move past this," she said, her voice steady. I nodded, appreciating her honesty. "I accept your apology, Jenna. It's going to take time for things to feel normal again, but I am open to rebuilding our relationship," I replied. The rest of the evening was filled with laughter, stories, and a sense of camaraderie. I felt a glimmer of hope that perhaps we could mend our relationship. As I left the gathering, I felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted. In the following weeks, Jenna and I began to communicate more regularly. We started with small talk and gradually moved on to deeper conversations about our lives and aspirations. I could see that she was making an effort to change, and I appreciated her willingness to grow. Mark and I continued to focus on our relationship, and I could see how the experience had strengthened our bond. We learned to communicate better and support each other through challenges. It was a reminder that we were a team, and together we could navigate any storm. As summer turned into fall, I found myself reflecting on the journey I had taken. The drama with Jenna had been a catalyst for personal growth, not just for her but for me as well. I had learned the importance of setting boundaries, standing up for myself, and the value of forgiveness. One day, as I was tidying up the house, I stumbled upon a box of old family photos. I sat down and began to flip through them, reminiscing about the good times and the memories that shaped who I was. It was a reminder that family, despite its complexities, could also bring joy and connection. I decided to reach out to Jenna and invite her over for coffee. I wanted to continue building our relationship and see where it could lead. When she arrived, we spent hours talking, laughing, and sharing stories. It felt refreshing to connect with her on a deeper level, and I could sense that we were both committed to moving forward. As the months went by, our relationship continued to blossom. We attended family gatherings together, supported each other through life's ups and downs, and even collaborated on a few projects. It was a new chapter for both of us, one filled with understanding and mutual respect. Looking back, I realized that the experience had taught me valuable lessons about family dynamics, communication, and the power of forgiveness. I had emerged stronger and more resilient, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the end, I was grateful for the journey. It had been a roller coaster of emotions, but it had ultimately led to growth and healing. I knew that while family relationships could be complicated, they were also worth nurturing and cherishing. And as I looked forward to the future, I felt hopeful about the possibilities that awaited me in my evolving relationship with Jenna.